morning, everybody. This will be, I'll upload these. I wasn't going to do any. Just finished a nice long time of prayer. And I'm right at the end where I do the Lord's Prayer, the Our Father. But then I thought, let me do one. I have a long, I got some teaching videos still got to come up. And I talked about some things the other night. My motorcycle in the garage, it's been smelling like gas, so I knew I had a fuel leak somewhere. So I took the gas tank off 2 nights ago, and I'm looking, and then there's a fuel line with a hose clamp missing, and I thought, that's got to be it, because the clamp broke off. And then I put the clamp on, put everything together, it's still leaking, take it back off, and it's the whole fuel valve, which I ordered one on eBay for $30. But I still tried to just put some gasket sealer, which you shouldn't do it that way, but like over it, normally that doesn't work. But I'm still riding and all. And so those bikes, one of my friends, JW, told me when he knew I bought that particular 1981 Yamaha Maxim, he said, oh, those things run forever, John. So I like having things that are not perfect. So now I'm going to do this one because I was visiting my friend Mike yesterday. And it was nice to visit Mike. And he's got a bunch of paintings. Oh, I'll tell this story. Mike's got 2 cute dogs, Bear and Buddy, and I won't give too many details, but I like playing with the dogs when I go there. And Bear is like a beautiful little black dog. Always plays with me there. And Buddy is like a street dog. And so Buddy will walk with Mike when Mike's walking. So I visited Mike, and I said, where's Buddy? John, I had to get rid of him because the dogs, I noticed the other day when I left Mike's house, they want to get out, so they even jump out the window sort of to try to see me at the car. So Mike was upset because he almost got in a fight with the neighbor because Buddy and Bear sneak out the house. Neighbor yells, rightfully, you got to keep those dogs on a leash. So when I visited Mike, he said, I get rid of Buddy. I almost got in a fight over Buddy, so I walked outside to get my soda in the car, and of course I thought Buddy was gone. So I said, oh, Buddy, I miss you. Sure enough, he must have heard me, and he comes running up. He was hiding somewhere close to the house, like rejected dog, and I said, I can't believe he's right here. So when I walked in the house, and I really didn't want to let him back in, but Buddy snuck in, and I told Mike's hard of hearing. I said, oh, Mike, Buddy, I didn't know he was right there. He came in, and he said, oh, that's all right. And sad little Buddy's kind of like hiding, because I guess Mike must have spanked him. And then he's in the back, and then I found Mike's old paintings, because Mike has a lot of talent. And I said, where's that other one you did, Mike? A nice one. I was going to have him finish it, and I was going to buy it. Beautiful painting of a ship and a boat like in the Hudson River. He said, John, I painted over that one. But he had one other New York painting of the Statue of Liberty that he's been making. I see these when I visit Mike. I said, and I pulled that one out. I said, Mike, finish this one and I'll pay you $30. And to him, he thinks that's a lot of money, but Mike is a great artist. He did that one for me. So it was interesting. But I checked the news throughout the day. And if there's any big busts, arrests, I always check to see if any of my friends are on those lists. And one of the top headlines, and we'll talk a little about this, was they had like a 2-year federal investigation, I'm not complaining, on the Aryan Brotherhood. You have various gangs in various areas of the country, all right? And then it said they arrested 14 guys, and one's still on the loose or whatever. And I wanted to just check to see names. And about 5 of the names, most of it is from where I live in Flower Bluff, okay? Corpus Christi, but we call it Flower Bluff. And I recognized about maybe 5 or 6 of the names, because they put the real names, and then they put AKA what their street names are. And I think only one of them was in one of my little Bible studies a few years ago. But it was the most I've ever seen of people that I heard names on the street and so forth. And I'm grateful that none of them were any of my friends that I've been working with these last many years, okay? So I was grateful for that. But I did recognize a lot of the AKA. And then I had some friends that have gotten away from a lot of their past. But you know, these last few years, some of them would tell me, man, John, Fed vehicles following me all over. And he says, and some of those friends of mine say, John, I'm not in those lifestyles anymore, which they're not. But yet, so that's fine. But they're going to appear. I read the article, and it was a little shock to me to see that many of the names. Some of them I was just familiar with from hearing names in the street. But I'll tell you the truth of all my years with some of the guys on the street. It's not, some of the guys like sell, a few years ago, somebody was just selling the old baseball cards and like things. I thought, there's not a lot of money because I looked at these charges, racketeering and all, and they said they were all going to be facing life in prison sentences. And I really saw that, from what I had perceived, it's not as, if you will, as organized as maybe the public sees. I've watched these mafia shows, they're just interesting. Nicky Scarfo, I saw something on. But it's not, and many of the guys, they're seeking the Lord throughout their lives. They're like, so I saw it, and Judge Ellington from the federal courthouse, I had a DUI once on Padre Island, which is federal land. Sure enough, that was my judge for a DUI. And I had to go into that federal courthouse every month because I had like the probation thing for a DUI. And so I'm just looking at it, and it's on top news, AKA this, give them the names, give them the names. And it just didn't seem to me that all the particular charges they put on those names of the 14, I don't know, it just doesn't, I have not really myself seen it to that degree. And the other thing is, people that are also in corruption, meaning those that wear the uniform, whether they're an agent or whether they're an officer or wherever it is, I've not seen any corruption busts. You heard me talk about many issues these last few years. But I've not seen that here, meaning those that are actually within the system. And I've seen them going on in other places of the country. There's one I posted the last few months, a bunch of officers up in where my father is living in New Jersey, but it was one of the cities where he lives, I forget now, Nutley or Bloomfield. Used to be Bloomfield, now it's Nutley. But these were cops that were rogue, and they busted him. I posted that not too long ago. But I've not seen any of that here in South Texas. I've not seen any of which we got somewhat of a history of it. Those of you that viewed my site for about 2 years now. And so they splashed every name. And I'm not a defender of any criminal activity. But people that are out investigating others, whether it's a Mr. Mueller. I read an article. I'm not a big defender of Trump, but I will tell you, as I watched this whole thing process, and then this big scandal, I gave a note to Matt Lauer on Facebook the other day. I said, I'm sorry to hear about this news. Matt Lauer, very prominent morning show, mainstream media, many years out of Dirty Rock, Rockefeller Center. I might be there very soon. You'll see the videos of the skating rink and all. I should be up there pretty soon. And it might even be snow. But the scandals and how it's taking down many in the media and also political figures. John Conyers, he might wind up resigning, very, very long-term, longest-serving Democrat right now in Congress. And it's interesting to see the scriptures I was reading the last few weeks, but it's interesting to see that, like, there's times of judgment, if you will. And so the whole thing that upsets me the most about the whole Mueller thing, I read an article from the Alan Dershowitz, a former Harvard law professor. Those that are familiar with media and all, Alan Dershowitz, he just did one the other day, and talking about the investigation of Trump, and then how it got into all these financial things. And he believes that whole thing is like constitutionally wrong, because the article from Alan Dershowitz said, and Mr. Mueller is investigating. He wants to know why Trump fired James Comey, former FBI director. He said that has nothing to do with any investigation. He could fire, which is correct. But we got to see, we're not going to see if it had anything to do with. The honest thing is, Trump felt like Comey was a hack because of the way he handled the Clinton thing. And many legal scholars, when James Comey came out during the election, right before Hillary and Trump, before the election was over, but the whole thing with the server and all, but then when he came out, he said, this is our findings, that what he said in public, Mr. Comey, was more evidence that they could have charged Mrs. Clinton with something. And she was not elected, obviously. She didn't get elected. But for political reasons. I used to think Loretta Lynch, the former Attorney General, when she met with Bill Clinton on the tarmac, which was like, geez, did Mr. Clinton, as friends, collusion in the system? Sure enough, he did. He got her to pressure the Justice Department and the FBI and all this to do favors for one another, to call the investigation a matter. All of this shows me that many that are in this system, meaning in this country, special prosecutors, federal people, whatever your calling happens to be, it shows me many of you are involved in many of the same things that you go after people for. That's what that shows me. And so, yes, maybe you struck fear into the hearts of even some of the people I know that are friends of mine. And you're showing the names, and look at this and look at that. You know what should have happened? That trial out of Beeville that I spoke about, which is connected to this region in South Texas. And then you had 4 witnesses killed. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 or 3 or 4 murders. I think some were women. Murdered so they would not testify in a gang-related case out of Beeville where it was like a triple homicide. And finally the case is dropped. Now that's a severe thing. Those are severe things. And I'm not justifying any lifestyles of crime, but I find it just interesting. So I'll follow this case in the media. But I was somewhat shocked when I saw many of just names that I was familiar with, because some were in my Bible studies, okay? People like that. But none were any of the good friends in the sense that you've seen me. And maybe some of the authorities realize, look, some of these guys are trying to change, which is correct. And look, I won't give too many, I'm not going to give no more names. But one of my friends has got a good job at Stripes. And I told that story. I went in one day and the manager said, do you know so-and-so? I said, yeah, he's a friend of mine. The manager must have knew I knew him. And he kind of gave him a break. He said, tell him to come in for a job. And I'll tell you, my friend is working. He was working yesterday. I didn't get a chance to see him. It was Crow. Okay? And he works at the Stripes here. And Crow's about my age. And I give them credit. And it's hard to do that type. My other friend Mike, he's working at a fast food restaurant. because has to make some extra money. And he says, "Oh, John, but I'm working with younger kids now at the fast food restaurant, the Jack in the Box." But I give them credit because it's difficult to like, okay, I'm going to go to Stripes or I'm going to go Jack in the Box or whatever. That's hard after many years of various things people have gone through to have the discipline to do that. And I know a lot of other people that just don't. They don't because they've been one of the friends for many years in the street. Look, he's told me, and other of the street friends told me, he said, "You know, John, people see this other guy as just a homeless, drunk alcoholic. But I knew his story because others told me too. But he used to make a ton of money. He was buying $1 million house, I guess, on the island. He was making money left and right, and left and right. And you know, his wife died of cancer. And this friend, I talk to him sometimes. I won't give you his name. But he told me his own story. He said, "You know, John, I used to make a lot of money, and I was good at making it." He said, "But I wasn't good at saving it or investing it." And now he's one of the homeless guys on the street. So I'll just do this one to simply say, we want to make sure that whatever charges in this particular big top news story, that you have integrity in that system. Because when I read all those charges, life imprisonment, and I seen all that, and of course I don't know every detail, but I just felt like, no, it didn't seem. If you have, like I just told you, if you have a criminal trial proceeding and 3 or 4 witnesses are murdered in cold blood, one right after the other, in a criminal trial, and that has been dropped, no arrests, that's big. You see, you should have a priority. You shouldn't just do things and then put the names, AKA this. That's how I recognized about 5 of those names out of the 14. And you said, and I'm sure a lot of my friends now are like, to them it might be, of course it's big news. But where's any raids on corruption that those are in the system that have also been involved in that with a long history here in South Texas? I never see a single one of those. And that shows me that you cover up for those that are in those positions that do those types of things. Which is common knowledge that there's a history that some, wearing the badge, have done those things. And there's an arrogance of that level of corruption here in South Texas because they know, and I gave you cases where when federal raids were done, and I'm not even sure if they did it in this one, but they didn't even notify local authorities of the investigation. They notified them the day of the arrest, which simply meant the feds or the other agencies did not trust the cops being in on the investigation. But they let them in right there on the day of the search, meaning the day they make the arrest. So where are those? Where are those? That's, and so when you see me mad at, like, the investigation thing, and then I read an article from Alan Dershowitz, Democrat, liberal law professor, liberal his whole life. They're saying you can decide to hone in on particular things, and you can even get things in an illegal manner on people. So we'll watch this. We'll see. And then we're also asking, when are you going to do a raid on corruption in South Texas? Those in authority. When are we even going to see one of those stories? Because I see them all over the country. Why does that not happen here?